Here we have a 2008 Volkswagen Fox. It's got the 1.2 petrol engine and roughly 77,000 miles on the clock. So today this vehicle's come in for a brake fluid change. And the reservoir on this vehicle's over here, quite easily accessible. So to start with, I'm going to try and get as much fluid out of this bottle, the reservoir, as much as I can anyway. It's just a bit pointless pumping all the dirty fluid around the system when you can get quite a bit out. On here it usually tells you what sort of fluid you need. It's quite small, but it actually says there, .4 brake fluid. That's the most common one, to be fair. Once the cap's off, you've got like a little strainer in there, just in case you tip anything in there that shouldn't, you know, a bit of dirt or something. So I'll take that out for now. And that sits there nicely. I've got this tool, which is a bit of an old thing, but it's handy for siphoning out fluids. You could use a turkey baster or anything really you can get your hands on. Just make sure it's clean. Not sure that's working very well. Yeah, not really getting a great deal out with this today. Well, you got a fair bit, I suppose. And another good tip is to make sure you've got some fresh water nearby, just in case you drip anywhere. I don't think I have, or only down there. It just makes a very good paint stripper, brake fluid, so yeah, just be mindful of that really. But like I say, a bit of water and a soft cloth you can clean up with. Right, I've got some new brake fluid here, which is it's a full bottle, but I'll just use that to pour out of my new 5 litre bottle. I generally buy it in bigger bottles because I'm doing brake fluid quite regularly. Normally recommend sort of every 3 years roughly to change the fluid because it does absorb moisture. And make sure you've got a new bottle. You don't want to be using something that's been sat on a shelf for years. Price wise, like I say, I'm generally buying the 5 litre bottles, and you should be able to pick one up for around about £30, depending on what brand you go for. Right, so that's topped up now. There's a number of different ways of bleeding the brakes. I, up until recently, used to use a little handheld vacuum device, which I'd go around each of the bleed nipples and pull the fluid through, making sure it was topped up regularly. Of course, you could bleed it manually. I'm not a massive fan of someone sitting in the car pumping the pedal because you find that sometimes, normally on older cars, you're pushing the pedal to extremes that it doesn't usually go to, and you can end up damaging the seals in the master cylinder on this bit here, the master cylinder inside, and then you'd end up finding it very difficult to bleed the brakes and just end up with a spongy pedal. I mean, it's not always the case, but I've had that happen in the past, so I'll try and avoid pumping the pedal. But then, not everybody's got a choice, and that may be the way you have to go. But recently I've bought a new device which will hang on there next, and hopefully that will be successful. Right, so this is the pressure bleeder that I bought recently online. I went for the Sealy one because I'm using it quite regularly, so I want something that's going to last really. That was under £60, it wasn't bad at all when you consider the amount of use it's getting. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this connected up. It only comes with one cap, unfortunately, but the cap has gone on most of the vehicles I've done, apart from one, which was, I think it was a 2010 Fiesta. Slightly different cap fitting, but you can buy a kit anyway. So this holds 2.5 litres. I'd say it's got about 1.5 litres in there at the moment. I like to allow about 1 litre of fluid per brake fluid change. That should quite easily cover it, especially a car of this size. So now that's on, I can pump this up. You can see the fluid's gone down the pipe. Should have bought one of these years ago, really. It makes it so much easier. That amount of fluid in there, that's more than enough to cover the job. So that's got just over 20 psi in there. And now I can simply just take the car up in the air and go around each of the bleed nipples in turn. Right, so obviously you can buy bleed bottles online, but all you really need, or shop or wherever, all you really need is a plastic container of some sort and a piece of tube. Just make sure the tube isn't too snug a fit there, because you need to allow the air to come out of the bottle. I've just got a bit of a wire here so I can hang it up on something under the car. Now the bleed nipple, you can see here, it's just got a rubber cap on it, a dust kind of cover. Take that off. The back ones on this are 7mm. I just want to see if I can crack that loose. Yeah, you can see the fluid come out there. Actually, if I leave the spanner on there, should be able to open it up enough. I always prefer to use the ring end of the spanner wherever possible as opposed to the open end. And there we go, that's the fluid coming out. So I'll just let that do its thing for a little while. Probably get about, I don't know, 1/4 litre out of each one. That'll be plenty. As a rule, you should always bleed from the furthest away from the master cylinder, which is the passenger side rear. I don't think that's so critical when you're changing fluid, but if you're bleeding the system from fresh when it's empty, then yeah, definitely start the furthest away and work your way to the nearest. You can see that's that's filling up pretty quick, so shouldn't take too long. Right, this has been bleeding for a few minutes now, and you can see it's up to the bottom of that tape there. I'd say that's plenty now. You can see the tubing's pretty clear. It is a little bit difficult to tell when the new fluid comes through, unless you've got a vehicle that's got absolutely filthy fluid in it. Then you can quite clearly see the difference in the colour change. I'd say that's enough for that one. So I've just locked that bleed nipple off. Try not to go too mad and snap the thing. That's tight. Just pop the cover back on. Right, I'm going to do exactly the same with the driver's side rear, and then we move to the front. Right, we're at the passenger's front now. I've done both rear wheels. We didn't record them because they're just exactly the same on each corner basically. So here's the bleed nipple on the caliper. You always find it up at the top just in case any air gets in there, so you get the air out easily. Pull that dust cover off. These are 11mm on the front. That's it. You can actually buy like angled heads to put onto the rubber hose if it's a bit tight to get in. I'll just about get on that one. Crack that loose, and there goes the fluid. And we just leave that for a few moments to do its thing. This has been bleeding for a few minutes now, and you can see how much fluid I've got out in total over the 3. One more to go. So I'll lock that off there. Get that pipe off, hold it up and let the fluid in the bottle. Yeah, that's tight enough. Pop that cover back on, and I'll shift over to the driver's side front and do the final one. Exactly the same procedure as this side. Right, the fluid change is now complete. So it's still got a little bit of pressure left in there, so that works out just about right. Still got plenty of fluid in there. Let the pressure out and remove it. Looks like I've got slightly too much fluid in there, so I'll pull a bit of that out. Oops, made a mess. Right, pop the filter back in, a little strainer. You can see the arrowhead there, which is the maximum mark. It doesn't matter if you go slightly over, as long as you've got some airspace in the top of the reservoir. Pop the cap back on, and most importantly, need to just tip some water over wherever. If you're clumsy like me and make a bit of a mess, just rinse off the spilt brake fluid. Put some down there just in case. So now that's done, I'm going to make sure we've got a good brake pedal. Give it a couple of pumps. Oh yeah, that's a nice solid pedal. And all that's left to do, as I do with most of my jobs, just give this a run around the block. Make sure your pedal feels good. Hopefully it'll be a lot more responsive than it was before you started the job. And have a glance underneath at the bleed nipples and make sure you haven't got any leaks. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully the video's been of some help for you. And if it has, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It will help our channel out no end. Cheers.